GM to YouTube. This is going to be a little bit of a negative video because we got some information on how drops will be working at Yama, which is something I'm very concerned about. So before we do anything, I want to say, first of all, don't attack any J-mods. I want to say this at the beginning so it's very clear to anybody who's not watching the whole video or anything like that. People like Goblin, J-mods in general are being like forthcoming with information, and they do want what's best for the game. They want to improve the game. They play the game too, right? We're all in the same boat together. So there's no need to make personal attacks against anybody, okay? Surely we can agree on this? Okay, cool. Anyways, I wanted to say as well, before we get into it, I'm still very excited for Yama, and I will be doing it on release. I'm very, very hyped for the boss. I'm just concerned about some info that came to light. A question, Goblin, popped into my Twitch chat today on stream, and somebody asked the question, are you able to speak on whether contracts will be single-use or permanently accessible? And Goblin responded, tradeable, used on entry, so better hope you can finish it or say bye to whatever GP you spent on it or didn't sell it for. This was information that Goblin kind of assumed was public and was not talked about at all yet. Confirmation that the contract system is very similar to Awakeners Orbs, where it's a drop that you receive and can be sold to other players. Now, he's gone through this thread and been responding to basically everything people have been asking. I don't want to get super deep into it, but basically he's been saying he feels it's a lot better than the Awakeners Orb system, which could be totally true. Don't know. There's not full details out yet, so you can hold judgment. Everything I'm going to say can be taken with a grain of salt. These are just my concerns with this knowledge being presented. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. They haven't said, but we do know they are tradable and a drop. That is confirmed. One other thing that was confirmed that I feel is important that could have been buried here was in this thread, the beginning of it doesn't matter too much, but somebody asked, I really hope contracts are not a pay GP for better drop rates for mains. Please make them not the meta for getting uniques. Tradable feels like an awful decision here in how you balance drop rates between irons and mains if the intention is that they are the meta to get uniques. And Goblin confirmed that they are not pay GP for better drop rate system, which is the same as Awakeners Orbs. Like, it's technically better loot killing Awaken bosses. I don't know if this is directly confirming here that they are not better loot at all, but it's at least saying like people are not going to be doing this for better loot. That's like not the design goal. If you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, the contract system is some kind of difficulty modifier. He's been saying throughout the thread as well that it will mechanically change the boss when you do these contracts, which are going to be used to unlock the white variant of Oathplate. So it's a kit for the new armor. Similar to Blorva, you get Blorva by doing all 4 Awaken bosses. I want to, before we get into anything, explain my issues with Awakeners Orbs, because if you haven't done Blorva, you might not understand why I wouldn't like them. My take is that Awakeners Orbs are one of the biggest mistakes, maybe the biggest mistake they've ever made with high-level content. And I'll lay out how these work, okay? In case you don't know, Awakeners Orbs are a fairly rare drop, and you can see the rates here. It's kind of different on different bosses. A fairly rare drop from Desert Treasure 2 bosses. When you take that orb to said boss, it allows you to fight an incredibly difficult version of it, the Awakened version. You take that orb there, it allows you to attempt the boss once. If you die, it's gone. It's evaporated. You no longer have it. If you kill the boss, good for you, the orb is still gone. It's still evaporated. No matter what happens, when you go enter the boss room, you have used an orb, no matter what. And these orbs currently cost 900k. They vary a lot. On release, they were like 3 to 4 mil. And the idea is the main purpose for using these orbs is that once you've killed all 4 of the Awakened bosses, the 4th boss drops the Ancient Blood Ornament Kit, and this can be used with a lot of blood runes to convert your Torva into its Blorva variant. It's an ornament kit. So it's like a status thing. Are you capable of doing this? And the way this is shaken down is everybody remembers like roughly how many orbs they've used for their Blorva. You're trying to do it in as few attempts as possible to spend as little money as possible. That's the main idea. What this means in practice is you gate people out of doing content. And I don't really have a problem with it costing money to go earn Blorva. It kind of is a tough decision to make in your progression, where this is not a useful thing to go unlock, technically, on paper, but it's a cool status item. So the question is like, when do you have the funds, the resources to like go for this? And you probably don't want to do it without the skill or, prerequisite like knowledge that you need to go send it. So it's kind of got this like risk reward idea going on. The problem is that once you've unlocked Blorva, you can't do these anymore. And you can. You can still go buy orbs and you can still go back in. The problem is that you can't do them anymore. There's no way to access these in a way that you can still engage with the content. You can't go speedrun. You can't go do challenges unless you are a very select few players in the game. It's also extremely expensive just going for it your first time. If I was asking around in my Discord for some of the people that have done Blorva, it's usually around 100 to 200 orbs. I've heard of a lot of people going like 200 to 300 orbs. I've heard of people spending over 100 orbs on Vardorvis or Leviathan or both, like spending over 100 orbs on each. Like some people spend well over 300 of these orbs. And if you plug that in 900k each, yeah, that's 270 mil. Like if you spent 300. If you're on the low end and you got it really, really fast, like 100, I've heard of a couple people doing that. It's 90 mil. Like this is not small potatoes. That pales in comparison to the people that you hear actually doing challenges or speedruns after the fact. So I went ahead and asked around to some of the people that I know have done stuff post Blorva at Awaken bosses. I'm one of them, by the way. I did a ton of attempts at no stun and never ended up getting it. I spent, I think, 1.5 bill on orbs at the time. To be fair, they were way more expensive, like 3 to 4 mil each. But yeah, I spent a twisted bow, basically, on Awakeners Orbs. And I asked around at some people that have done things in different ways. I asked Noob Type. Noob Type did the 27 orb Leviathan challenge a while back. He was saying he spent roughly in the ballpark of 4 bill on that. And he was saying when he went for no stun the first time, he spent around 6 bill on that. So he spent a total of 10 bill. I want to paint that for people who, big numbers are lost on people. 10 bill is enough gold to buy every item. The harm staff, the volley staff, the eldritch staff, the scythe, the shadow, the T-bow, your full Torva, your every item that you can equip and would be cool to use at a boss, that's 10 bill. Like you can buy all of that with 10 bill. Everything in the whole game you can buy with 10 bill. That's all of them. And that's how much Noob Type burned on one Awaken boss. Gone. It's not like, oh, you know what? I got this cool thing for it. Like I can sell that for money. No, that's 10 bill gone. It's gone. I was asking Sax, who went for world record on quite a few bosses. He spent 3 to 4 bill trying to go for world record Vardorvis and didn't end up getting it. It was so difficult to get. A ton of money on Whisper, a ton of money on Duke, somewhere in the ballpark of 7 to 10 bill GP. And Porkazar just did the 54 Awaken Levi challenge, which is insane. Like absolutely crazy that someone was capable of doing that. He had this little slide in his video where he stated he spent over 3 bill GP on that. So anytime I'm talking about like people doing post Blorva, we're talking bills of GP. It's no longer mils, it's bills. Like you stop quantifying it by the mil because it's pointless. You just round up. You just round to the nearest bill. This is amounts of GP that is like unfathomable. And the players who have a lot of GP, like I have 7 shadow drops that I have in all solo. I've soloed 7 shadows. You are never ever going to see me killing these Awaken bosses because I can't afford it. I cannot afford to do it. The only people that can afford to do Awaken bosses are people that sell services, sell leeches, make GP through that kind of method. Because for any player like making GP purely through PVM, anything like that, they're not, you can't afford this. It is not feasible for like normal players to afford this. And there's a lot of people who would want to kill these Awaken bosses that just can't, me included. I really like Awaken Levi. He's in my top 5 bosses in the whole game. I don't kill him. I just can't kill him. I don't do these challenges. I don't do speedruns. I don't do anything. I don't approach the boss fight because they've gated me off. They have gate kept this boss from the players that would like to interact with it, like the high level players, which is so backwards. It's so boggling. It's so mind-boggling that they chose to go with a system like this. And it's been heavily scrutinized by a lot of players, besides me as well, that don't like this system. There's also the problem of ironmen that want to attempt these bosses. These drop rates are very, very high. Not very good. I mean, like, it takes forever to get an orb. You're talking like an hour, maybe a little more, hour and a half per orb on average, something like that. That is a lot of time per attempt at a boss. So if you're an iron and you want to go for these and you're going to take between 1 to 200 hours, maybe 300 hours if it takes you 300 orbs. And this is a low estimate. I'm thinking probably like 500, 600 hours, realistically, like for most people. So like it really gates ironmen out of doing this as well. Like the only people that can go for this realistically are irons that have a main and had a chance to practice, which is like most that have Blorva are ones that have practiced on a main first, or people willing to put in ridiculous hours at these bosses, like post pet rate. So this is like content that actively dissuades people from doing it, which is not good. If we're gonna make content, we want people to engage with it and like interact with it, right? Why are we trying to dissuade people from doing it? So now we're doing a similar thing with Yama. I have more concerns besides what I just said. Even if Goblin has said that the system will be better than Awakeners Orbs, even if it fixes it in some way. And people have suggested things for Awakeners Orbs to make them not bad. A good example is people saying, well, why don't they make it so on kill you get a new orb? My personal suggestion for how to make Awakened bosses good is just make the Sanguine kit the same as the Echo Orbs from Leagues, where if you take the Sanguine kit, it's permanent access to Awakened bosses. Like you can just use that, unlimited uses. Once you've, earned it, you've earned your Blorva, you now have access to the bosses. But even if they do something like that, we have the problem of this being duo. Okay, so duo opens a lot of problems here. First of all, how the heck is this even gonna work in a duo? Do you both need a contract? Is it just one of you? Does one person bring a contract and they're like, hey buddy, you want to go with me and try this? If so, how toxic is that going to be when the person who didn't pay for a contract like dies? You're going to be like, what the hell, man? You just wasted my contract that I brought to the table. Okay, so maybe it's two people need a contract. Well, it's still toxic because like, hey man, you made me waste my contract. It's like, this is a heavily like team-based boss where you're both putting a ton of GP up front. I don't see how this wouldn't be like super toxic. It's reminding me of Perfect Theater, like going for that. Like having the one guy in your Perfect Theater attempts that has wiped a Verzik or ruined your Verzik CA like 4 or 5 times, it starts to get a little tense in your team at that one guy. You're like, okay, man, like we get it. Like you got the sweaty hands. Can we just not do that and get through the Verzik so we can get the CA and move on with our lives, please? That's one of my biggest issues with Perfect Theater is the toxicity. But I'm feeling that bleeding into this. Like when it's something super, super difficult and it's duo, I don't know. When it's losing GP for both of you, that seems like it will be a really toxic system. Okay. What if they implement some of the solutions we just said? Okay. What if it's permanent unlock once you've completed it? Okay. What if you want to group up with someone who hasn't completed it? Is it just they require the contract and you don't? What if you've completed it? Let's say you have a contract, but your duo partner is an iron and they don't have the contract. Are you just trapped in limbo until they decide to get the drop? Until they stop making the mistake of being unlucky? Are you just trapped? You cannot do the Awakened boss until then? Another question is, what happens when your teammate dies while you're doing this contract? Can they still get the kit if you clear it? Can you clear it? Does it just wipe? Wait, like what happens? Can you just full leech this like anything else? Or I don't know. Is this going to be like a heavily boost I think they've said in a couple things that this is going to be, it's going to heavily disincentivize boosting. Like you will have to pull your weight. So if your teammate dies, does that just effectively make it impossible? Like, are you screwed? This doesn't feel like it works well for like a duo boss. And maybe I'm missing something entirely. Maybe I'm not creative enough to see the solution that Jagex has come up with to make this work well, but I'm just not seeing it. Like this feels like toxic. It feels bad. It feels bad. It feels like this does not work for a duo boss. I think it's really important for Jagex to get a lot of mileage out of these high level updates because it's been said repeatedly that these take a lot of effort. They take a lot of time. They take a lot of dev time. The last high level update we had is Colosseum. It was roughly a year ago. So we get roughly one of these like super hard updates per year. And we're actually getting 2. We're going to get Mocha. So that's cool. We're getting 2 this year. But I think it's really important that with these high level updates, you don't do this, like, you don't add this friction that like prevents people from interacting with it. All these like problems, these hitches. A good example I could give you of like friction on a high level update is like Inferno. Like to do Inferno, you have to go grind Slayer tasks. to get a speed run, right? There's friction. Like, you're like, man, I wish I didn't have to do that. Another good one is like cape swap limit on CM speed runs. If you haven't seen a CM speed run, you start in standard, you get all the way up to Ice Demon, which is the third boss, and you're going to use Fire Surge on that, and then you're going to cape swap so you have thralls the rest of the raid. Once you run out of your 5 cape swaps for the day, you're done. You can't do CMs anymore. Like, you can't compete anymore. So there's like this friction on a lot of these high-level bosses. And Awakened bosses has the worst of all, where it's literally like a shackle. Like, it is impossible to do the boss at all unless you are noob type, Port Khazard, or Sax. You do services, and you have like such ridiculous sums of GP that you can do it anyways. It is genuinely impossible to interact with the content at all. Versus like, oh, it's annoying, I have to go get a task. Oh, it's annoying, I'm daily limited. Like, this is just impossible to do. I think they need to get a lot of mileage out of these high-level updates if they're going to last potentially 6 months to a year until the next release, right? Like, they can't have these like hitches. I wanted to show this where Goblin says some stuff. I think update news details from Twitch chat is actually a completely new one. In this instance, I was replying to a question thinking that it had been answered prior in a blog and was just aiming to help somebody out. Spinning a lot of plates at the minute, and it's easy to lose track when you're just yapping. Absolutely a misstep, but equally don't want the occasional mistake to discourage me from engaging with players out and about in the community. Same kind of thing that contributes to a lot of the team pulling back from talking with players at all. In any case, things are explained in much more detail on the post for next week, which I'll have time to read over during the 45-minute timer ahead of Game World's rebooting. Okay, so he says, hey, I didn't mean to mention it. We will clear this up as the content comes out. So my problem with this is that it's really clear that this even happened, that like Goblin accidentally gave a detail that like this indicates that he felt that this should have been talked about already, right? Like, he just had in his mind like, oh, this has been talked about. All right, I'll explain to this Twitch chatter how this works. And it hadn't been talked about. My question is, why hasn't it been talked about? Like, how has this not been mentioned anywhere yet? This feels like a really important thing that we should have been let in on, that contracts will be a drop and be tradable. I think that's a big thing in a poll, like whether something is tradable or untradeable and how a thing works. Like, this is not something they should be accidentally leaking now. And I'm not blaming Goblin here at all. I'm really happy that he came forward with this, because I would just be blindsided when the update comes out and be like super pissed about it. So I'm really glad that we got a little bit of foresight. We see the baseball flying at my head. Maybe I could dodge out of the way now. My question is like, why did this not come up in any of the Yama blogs whatsoever? That's crazy to me. The other problem is that now that we're waiting for release to give details, we have no chance to fix it if it's not a good system, because it's tied to the market. I wanted to bring up chromium ingots, because chromium ingots are kind of a similar thing. From what I can tell, these were mentioned in passing in like one blog, in like one sentence, like never indicated like kind of how they would work or anything. But if you don't know, chromium ingots for like Desert Treasure 2 bosses are required to combine the vestige drop with a ring upgrade. So this allows you to make your Ultor your Bellator. This is like the glue that keeps them together. It has no purpose whatsoever, and there's no reason they couldn't have just allowed you to combine the vestige with the ring, to the point where they've done this really janky, and I don't even feel like reading it because it's so overly complicated and silly. There's this really jank, overly complicated like duct tape fix they added that lets you go make an ingot if you're dry in an iron. This item exists purely to torment ironmen, which is kind of based kind of funny, but it's like a terrible addition. Like, objectively, this is a useless item that they never should have added, and there was no communication about it whatsoever. So this is feeling like a similar thing where like we have a potentially really like crappy system coming up and they can't fix it now. So they're gonna have to do some kind of duct tape fix if these contracts suck to the general player base. Like, if people don't like these, the only way they can fix it is doing something really silly, because people are going to accrue these contracts in their bank. They're going to have them in their bank, and Jagex is not going to be able to delete it out of your bank without like compensating you or something, which is a huge undertaking for them. They'd have to remove it from the Grand Exchange. It's too much work. They're not even going to do that. There's no chance in hell they would do that. So we'd get some kind of duct tape solution here. I think it's way more important to have communication on things that are going onto the market, because you can't fix them anymore. Another good example is jars. Jar of Dirt was a drop from Kraken that a JMod effectively accidentally made tradable, and they just had to keep it that way, and it set a precedent. Like from then on, all jars were tradable. And yeah, so we can see with Araxor, they've started to slowly like stop doing this. Like now it's untradable, as it should have been the whole time. But like lack of communication leads to bad decisions. Like the poll system is in place to prevent things like this from happening, like major accidents that can't be fixed. EOC. You get what I'm saying? This is not EOC level problems, but you know, like communication is really important, and missing communication on this, I think, was a huge mistake on Jagex's part. I wanted to show this as well in the thread, where someone said the secrecy about how these contracts are going to work doesn't inspire confidence. And Goblin says it's mostly just to try and leave something for people to discover. I'm pretty confident in the system and think it's cool, but appreciate that it's different strokes for different folks. It's also a system that's giving too many specifics for is difficult to do without giving more away about Yama himself. So this kind of implies that there's like some kind of super creative system going on that I just can't fathom. My pea brain is not large enough to understand like how this could be a good system, which is totally possible. I don't know. That's why I said at the beginning of the video, like, you know, I don't know. I'm speculating. I just have concerns. But I feel like we need to draw a clear line between like mystique, mystery, intrigue, and like things that are really important for the community to have input on. Like whether these contracts are tradable or not should have been discussed. Like the system surrounding contracts should have been talked about at some point, like no question. You don't have to leak like how contracts work, what the boss mechanics are, what exactly like it's gonna look like, but we should know like basic stuff, like is it a tradable drop, is it untradable, how does it work in a duo, like do you both need one, like, what's written on the contracts, how they work, how many different types there are. There doesn't need to be that much detail, but at least the like this is the general idea of how it works. I think this would have affected people's yes and no votes on the boss even if this was not up to spec for people. So leaving it out feels scummy. It feels like we're sneaking this in. Like it feels like the devs feel that this update might not have been appreciated if they talked about it, so we just keep it quiet until release and then just, you know, quietly. And I don't think that's the intention at all. I think they really do want to put out like really cool things, but it definitely gives that vibe. Like, this stuff should just be out there. It should be out in the open. This stuff should be talked about. I don't see any reason like it couldn't be said that these were a tradable drop somewhere in some blog. I'm really hoping that they decide to quickly at this point try to put out some information for us that fleshes out exactly how these work. I feel like they've made a big mistake here, like not talking about contracts. And I think they probably, I mean, based on like Goblin, like trying to like reply to everyone and just make it clear, like the intentions, like I feel like they definitely understand that, like a mistake has been made here. I'm hoping they just come forward and are like, hey, this is how it works before release, because by the time release happens, there won't be time to fix this anymore. There will be no way to remove contracts from people's banks. There won't be any more options. This is the last chance they have to make a system that everyone can agree on and appreciate. You cannot be gatekeeping high-level players out of these updates when we get so few of them. I've been itching for a huge high-level update forever. I've been waiting for so long. So if at the end of the day, I can't even grind it because there's a huge GP barricade in the way, I'm gonna be extremely disappointed. I don't want to play any more hardcore. I want to play main again. Please. Please. I want to escape. I want to escape the shackles of Iron Man, and I want to come back to the land of the free, the home of the brave. Main, goddammit, Main. It's what I yearn for. I want to kill hard bosses. I want to do difficult things again. I miss it. I miss it a lot. It's been a minute. One of the things I've learned over the years are that J-mods are really just players as well. Like, they really do want to make the game good. I'm hoping at this point they own up to, hey guys, we screwed up here. Figure out like a good solution, or just like fully explain like what's going on, so there's not this like confusion and concern, because people are really, really concerned about this beyond just me. Like, a lot of people in the thread are like, oh, I've lost all hype for Yama, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm hoping they just come forward and they're really transparent with what's going on. And in the future, like, I feel like it's always going to be better for that transparency to be happening and for us to vote on it, rather than like focusing on trying to keep the mystery and stuff, especially if it's tied into the market. Like, because there's just nothing you can do when something's on the GE and you need to fix it, change it. Like, there's nothing you can do anymore. It's super difficult. And be nice to Goblin. I've seen a lot of flack in this this Reddit thread. We love Goblin. He gave us insight into how the system works. I think it's really useful info. Regardless if it was an accident or not. Goblin's like an amazing community manager. So definitely don't sling shade his way. There's no need for that at all. It's always good to give like solid constructive feedback. We can just leave the like personal attacks out. There's just no need for it. Commenting in places, talking with mods, that kind of thing. It's always good. Hopping in their discords, that kind of thing. But yeah, just don't attack specific JMods, or there's just no need for any of that. All right, that's it for the video. I'm still very hyped for Yama, and I'll still be doing it on release. So make sure you check out the stream. I will be streaming as soon as Yama comes out. It will be very sick, I'm sure. So make sure you're there. Leave a like and or subscribe. Peace. See ya. Mwah!